Hello, my name is William Kumwemba and this is Business Time. It's a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. And in the program today, among other things, we look at Malawi's preparedness to leverage on the existing market in the UK following the Brexit. And also in the program, we look at how the government is positioning itself to make the most of the tourism sector. That's inside Business Time.
I've got that feeling, that linger feeling. 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 Bwembwe.
Made from fresh local fruits of mulberry, jambula, rosella, strawberry, plum, white guava and white peach, and naturally fermented for 1 or 2 years in our cool cellar, comes Malawi's own Linga. Here's to a smooth taste, unsurpassed quality, and distinctive fruit wines. When in Malawi, it has to be Linga.
Hello and welcome. This is Business Time, and in our main story in the program, following the Brexit, the UK government has been working tirelessly to identify potential trading partners, and Malawi is seen to be one of such. Lately, the country has been working on policies and measures to leverage on the existing market in the United Kingdom. But how systematically is the country positioned to make the most of the existing market? This is a question we attempt in this report written in our studios by Sarah Chirola.
Malawi remains an agrarian economy, with tobacco still its main export crop. While the much-touted green gold is seemingly losing its charm, the diversification discourse has taken center stage, yet again with fresh cause to find complement. But while the country grapples on this, one challenge remains the ever-yawning gap between imports and exports, as the country remains a predominantly consuming and importing nation. With a readily available market within Africa through the African Continental Free Trade Area, Malawi's only task is to grow output to leverage on it. Overseas, various markets seem available, including in the UK, which recently exited the European Union. As a way of courting African countries for business, the UK is proposing a generalized system of preference scheme to be introduced in 2022. Lately, the Ministry of Trade, through the Trademark East Africa Malawi Country Program, has been consulting the local industry on how to leverage on the available UK market. Victor Banda is Trademark East Africa Economic Advisor for Malawi.
The Trademark East Africa has just kick-started a trade facilitation program for Malawi. Just started some 2 months ago, and we got approached by the Ministry of Trade, so we could support the national consultations on this window of consultations that has been opened up by the UK government with regard to the generalized scheme of preferences. You know, after the withdrawal of the UK from the EU, there was anxiety. There was, some risk of loss of preferences that were enjoyed in the EU bloc. So what the UK has done is to maintain largely those preferences that were enjoyed under the EU, everything but arms, for example. But now there is a proposal, an interim sort of scheme for which the UK government would like to consult those developing countries, least developed countries, as well as all those that enjoyed the preferences, and Malawi is one of them.
But what is the private sector's input? Robin Sanders is Cholo Nut Company Limited Operations Manager.
So, in honesty, as I was speaking to the consultant, sensitization would have been good. We weren't actually initially in part of the stakeholder meetings. It's been good in that we've been able to discuss things. I think there is a need to get better sensitized on the actual policies. And as I spoke to the consultant, I think it's very specific when you're talking about trade and standards. It's specifically linked to the products. So, as a generalized industrial conversation, it might be a little bit difficult to get into those specific tariff issues, but it's welcome. I think it's a good initiative, and at least if our voices are heard and can be taken forward through the ministry, I think it's very helpful.
Government feels the schemes are fundamental instruments for increasing exports, thereby integrating into global economy.
We are requested by the UK government to participate in the new proposal on their general system of preference for developing and least developed countries. So this provides a window of opportunity for Malawi, one, to understand what the UK is proposing, two, to allow them to participate in the process, three, to enable Malawians, as it were, compare with other GSPs, then providing a wider market perspective for Malawi.
Now, industry captains lament first half of the year as tough for doing business, characterized by various challenges, including pangs of the COVID-19 pandemic. But the question remains, what does the future hold in as far as doing business in the country is concerned? Our journalist Yamigan Kajaje has the whole story in this report.
The Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry, MCCCI, an umbrella body for industry players, rated the first 6 months of the year as a mixed bag. In an interview, MCCCI President James Chimwaza says the performance of the private sector suffered from the same reduction in business velocity as it has been worldwide.
That has primarily been due to logistics as one major factor. The second factor is the health-based protectionism, like the vaccines and closure of borders. That has affected very severely the hospitality industry, as well as the transport sector. The transport industry, our airlines have not been spared. All forms of transport have not been spared. And from logistics, all those who rely on imported raw materials and imported finished goods suffered setbacks. And all those who export equally suffered setbacks. As a result, there had been a sharp rise in prices because of the scarcity which the pandemic created. So there's been just that big downward trend. That's how I would sum it up, but it has had some spots of hope, because there are institutions that experienced gains out of the same situation. The medical industry experienced some gains.
National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises executive member Unifrasia Busanje lamented the state of businesses as a result of the pandemic, but is hopeful on the future of their performance.
Some SMEs have performed well, while others have suffered a lot, because the problem that most of Malawians, we depend on imported materials. So due to lockdown in some countries like South Africa, people were not able to import the materials, and the business have been suffering. Even a loss of customers, because due to the COVID-19, people were also scared to go for shopping, especially in congested places. So it has brought down the business. The outlook is not that bad. The only thing that when the business has dropped, for it to pick up, it's not something easy. Because even those people who are we claim that they are our clients. They have also been affected. Some of them, their companies have not been paying them in good time. They have been suffering. So I feel that in general, if there is enough funding and forming cooperatives, if we form cooperatives and in those cooperatives we receive funding and also maybe grants for those serious-minded business people, it can help a lot, because that is what is happening in other countries like in South Africa. They are giving grants to boost up businesses because they know that it has been affected by coronavirus.
It is worth noting that, despite the underperformance of many in the private sector, the banking industry itself has shown impressive performance. Recent financial statements for 5 Malawi Stock Exchange listed commercial banks have shown profitability in their half-year ended June.
Remember, this is Business Time. It's a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. We'll be right back, and when we get back, commercial banks maintain reference rate. We find out what does this mean to the borrowers.
Zinenenji so munalimo muno eya ndimadza kulya ruzina ndisina mwali kumande mwashopata sugar apo tikona nkaka kumatuma sambati ndi mulibe alamwa kuti samwatiyo masamba ndakhaso tingati amwali komanso to inu mupasikirani yonse yangodzadza ndi made in Malawi yoka tamakani moyo tsogola pogula zinthu zakunja maganizo amene kuti ndobwezera chitukuko cha dziko lino mbuyo kugula zinthu zopangidwa kwathu konkuno kumathandiza kukweza ntchito za makampani a dziko muno zomwenso zimapereka mwayi wa ntchito kwa anthu ambiri ogwira ntchito akachuluka dziko lathunso limatolera tu misonkho yochuluka chumanso chimakwera mukagulatu katundu wakunja mumangolemeretsa mayiko akunjawo ife sitipindula kanthu kani tikuwuzani ipo ndendamvetsatu tandikire pompa nene ndikagule zinthu zathu zachimalawi sindichedwa tigule zathu tiliwe dziko lathu ndidikire sindichedwa dziko lathu bai Malawi tikonde ndi kunyadira zachimalawi tikamagula zakunja.
Welcome back. This is Business Time. It's a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. Moving on with the program. Commercial banks in the country have maintained their reference rate, the benchmark of other rates, at 12.20%. But the tough question remains, what does this mean to the borrower? Others say it means stability of access to finance by several sectors in the economy. Our journalist Justin Kweu has filed this report.
The Reserve Bank of Malawi in April also maintained the policy rate, the rate at which commercial banks borrow from the central bank, at 12%, with an aim of helping businesses recover from the economic knocks of the COVID pandemic. Bankers Association of Malawi Chief Executive Officer Linus Nkungula attributed the development to an increase in average overnight interbank rate of 11.97% from 11.96%. Nkungula added that this was countered by the decrease in O-type T-bill yield from 12.85% to 12.76%. Speaking in an interview, economist from the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, Bechani Chereni, said this shows that banks are responding to the policy rate maintenance by RBM. He added that this also means that the cost of borrowing has been affordable and stable in the past months. He went further to say that this indicates that the economy has not been as turbulent, which does not necessarily mean that it has been good, but it means the country has had the stability of the macroeconomic environment, which is good. Financial market expert from Alliance Stockbrokers, Tokozani Saulosi, said the maintaining of the rate is accruing to several factors, including inflation. He added that economic players are, however, still skeptical of the economy as many factors are at play, including the COVID pandemic.
We can look at the policy rate, then we look at the monetary and policy committee that maintained the policy rate at 12%. So issues to do with inflation, issues to do with how the government wants to revamp the economy amidst the pandemic. So they have maintained the policy rate. So banks have also reacted to that by maintaining the reference rate so that they entice more people to still get loans from the banks so that the economy should be revamped. Yeah. So if you also look at the report by the Reserve Bank, you notice that there has been a growth in private sector credit.
Yes.
So this is necessitated by the lower interest rates that the country is currently experiencing, despite that inflation rate seems to be increasing over time.
What does this mean, the maintaining of a reference rate at 12.2%? What does this mean to the cost of borrowing?
The cost of borrowing still remains the same, which is a bit lower than what we were experiencing before. And because the maintaining of the reference rate will necessitate that most people should be borrowing. People borrowing, the cost of borrowing is low.
Yes.
So the maintaining of the policy rate, like I said, that inflation rate is going up.
Yeah.
There are factors that should necessitate the banks to increase the reference rate, because it's a risk, it's a risky business. But they are maintaining so that people should be borrowing. People should be borrowing from banks, and the economy should be revamped from where it was.
What is the benefit to the economy of a lower cost of borrowing?
All right. When the private sector now borrows, because we have the government and we have the private sector.
Yes.
So when the cost of borrowing is low, so I'll give an example of a company, a manufacturing company. So if they have a lower cost of borrowing, they will borrow more, so that they increase their production. When there's an increase in production, then we're talking about an increase in the growth of the economy. There's an increased economic activity. People have a lot of money now in their pockets. We're talking of employees, we're talking of government through taxes. So it is to an advantage to an economy when the cost of borrowing is low, but it comes at a cost of inflation now.
Recent reports show that commercial banks in the country have seen a surge in demand of credit from the private sector. The Monetary Policy Committee has banked its hope on the stabilized policy rate as the path to economic recovery, among other policy interventions.
Now, tourism is seen as potentially the next big thing for the Malawi economy. However, input from the sector to the economy has remained relatively low. There has been suggestions to say there is need for massive investment into the sector. What is the government doing about it? Mike Lewis is the Minister of Tourism and sheds more light in this interview.
There are a number of areas which we could have done better in promoting domestic tourism. One is the use of local or vernacular languages. It has been shown that most Malawians do not patronize the tourist attraction areas because, number one, finances, number two, they don't know. Why? Is because we have marketed these areas using a foreign language, English, and as such, many people have thought tourism is a foreign phenomenon, and this is not just an incidental kind of a pronouncement, but it has been scientifically proven. This is research based. So we are saying let us use Chichewa, Yao, Lomwe, Tumbuka to market our tourist attraction areas and motivate our people to participate. It is important that we observe the COVID-19 preventive protocols, and every country on the globe have these protocols and they are being observed. Malawi is not an exception. Therefore, it is critical that visitors coming to Malawi should observe these protocols, and they are in place. So we are doing just that. So we are encouraging visitors to come. We are in the process of recovering, although COVID-19 is still here. We should also be mindful of the fact that when a phenomenon like COVID-19 has stayed with us for some time, people tend to be at ease, to get used to the problem, and then that's when it actually becomes so virulent. So we are always mindful of that temptation. So we want all Malawians to be aware that COVID-19, number one, is real, it is still killing, it is still here. So as much as government and all stakeholders supposedly are trying hard to make sure that we stay safe, we should always remind ourselves that COVID-19 is real.
Now moving on to other business news. The Malawi Stock Exchange remained afloat in the past month of August, with both traded value and volume rising. But what explains the performance?
Yeah, so as you had correctly indicated or put it, the market performance in August was quite good. To be specific, you find that the Malawi All Share Index registered a return of around 6.71%. And when you look at the specific companies, you find that there were 7 companies that registered price gains, while on the other hand, there were only 3 companies that registered price declines. And in terms of the actual performance, you find that the best performing stock actually registered a return of around 39%, meaning that the share price increased by 39%, roughly. On the other hand, I think the least performing, the decline was around 14 point something percent, or roughly 15%. So you find that overall, it has been quite a good month. And even in terms of the trading activity, there was an improvement. So you find that in July, it was around somewhere around 21 million shares that were traded, while this month it was around 65 million shares. So it is quite a significant increase. In terms of what has actually contributed to this good performance, there are quite a number of factors. I think we can pinpoint to one thing. One of the things, I think you'd see that the economy has been opening up. If you compare to where we're coming from, I think there was quite a suppressed activity as was expected with the circumstances in which the country overall was going through, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic. But at the same time, we can also contribute that performance to some of the seasonal factors or trends that we notice. So you find that within the month of July, August, up until September, you find that companies will be issuing out the half-year results. And so with these half-year results, most people actually trade on that information because it either reaffirms or confirms whatever assumptions they made about the performance of the stock, and then they go back to their drawing books as investors to assess whether to buy or sell. And so that information, especially combined with issues of interim dividend announcements, it does spur a little bit of activity on the market.
Well, that story also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.